Okay, hey, okay, hey everyone. Uh, this is Paul. It's like 10 past 4 in the morning, and I've got a cold. That might come across in my voice or whatever, but I uploaded this video. Well, kind of. I made a video with the footage I got earlier on today, and a buddy of mine, White, from the United States, is an up-and-coming player that just recently got bankroll, and I think some good things might happen with him. But anyway, he's asked for some commentary on the video I posted, so I'm going to do it. Queen 10 in the big blind on this first hand is not like these are just like the key hands in heads up that I played with this guy. Joliet 555, he is a supernova and a reg on PokerStars, so it was quite an interesting heads up. So I do my standard 3x on the button with Queen 10 off, and he makes a small 3-bet. So I call him just, because position, obviously. And I flop an open-ended straight draw. So I'm thinking I'm just going to play it really aggressively and try and get him to fold. And that's my immediate plan for the hand. Because unless you are in kind of raising your draws, then basically you're just leaking money out of your bankroll. Because without fold equity, it's pretty bad odds, especially with like such a big bet. So I raise, and unfortunately for myself, I raise to only 446, and in hindsight, I wish I'd raised a lot more, to maybe 6 or 650. But in the same respect, if he's got air, then he's going to fold to the min raise, in my opinion. We'd kind of played a few hands by this point, maybe like 6 or 7, so not many, but it was highly aggressive from the get-go. So I min raised, but he calls, which is one of the reasons why I wish I raised more, but maybe that's just being results orientated, who knows. So I continue the aggression on the turn. I don't mind the bet size. I mean, you could say that I should have bet more because he calls, but it's actually just slightly over half the pot, and you should be betting about 60%-ish with your bluffs to make them profitable. So his check calls the turn, and he's now checked the river, and although people can check trips out of position on the river, it's kind of rare. I think people generally get kind of scared that you're going to check back and just shove, especially in a pot like this. So when he checks the river, I'm pretty sure he hasn't got it, so I put him all in. But unfortunately, he had ace-jack, and he didn't believe I had a king, or he desperation called. Who knows? But anyway, so the next hand, I get queen 7 on the button and do my standard raise, and I raise 3x on the button every time I'm on the button, whatever 2 cards I've got, just so you know. He 3-bets, and there'd been a bit of 3-betting going on previous to this hand, so I called in position, and I kind of might anyway, just because it's heads up and position is super important. He bets kind of strong, but play was so aggressive that I thought that it might be worth a float, even though I've got pretty much air. So I do float, and turn gives me a pair of queens. He checks, and my thinking is that actually no, I actually check back now. In hindsight, I wish I'd bet maybe about 5. I couldn't tell you why I checked back the turn here. I think it might have just been because I assumed I had the best hand, so there was no need to kind of make him fold, but at the same time was worried that he could have a king, and that his check on the turn was kind of a slow play of some sort. So I decided to just check back and kind of use some pot control as well. I guess that was my thinking. And the river comes a jack, so he checks, and I decide to check back because basically my thinking is that there's a possibility that he had a jack, and although I just said that it's rare that people check back trips on the river, the last time that happened I shoved, and he might be waiting for that again, or well, I don't know, but I decided to check back, and he had pretty much, I mean, he had a pair of sixes, which is not a lot. So yeah. Next hand, as I said, I raise to 3x every time I'm on the button, so 10-2 for me is a raising hand there. And he comes along with his kind of usual 3-bet. And I say usual 3-bet because he was 3-betting a lot by this point, because I was pretty much doing it to him, but he was folding. He was folding his 3 times the big blind raises a lot to me, so this is the first time anyone had 4-bet during this kind of game, so I did like a very small one just to make the statement of it, and at the same time making it almost look like I wanted a call, which I think sometimes looks a bit stronger than just kind of betting 7 or something. So he calls, which I kind of expected he would, but he calls out of position, which is, well, not horrible, but it kind of is at the same time, because he's not putting himself in a very nice spot. So he kind of checks, and I make a big strong bet to make it look like, well, I guess I'm repping like jacks, queens, or something like that, that kind of wants a fold and doesn't want to see a card or something, I don't know. I mean, I just make a strong 3-bet and expected him to fold, and he did, which was nice. The next hand, King 10, and I'm on the button, so obviously I'm going to raise 3x, and lo and behold, a 255 3-bet. So I just flat this time to see a flop in position, and the flop comes ace high. So he makes the standard 326 move, which he kind of seems to enjoy, and because well, not really because, but I mean, I decided to float again, partly I guess because of what happened the last time I floated, and just because I don't think he's got an ace there a lot of the time. So I float, and sure enough he checks the turn, so I make a small kind of very, very slightly over half pot bet, so that he doesn't have to fold all that much for this to be a profitable move, but he does fold, so we run pretty good in that one. And what's the next one? Okay, next one, King 10 in the big blind. He was doing this every hand, so I was kind of just calling occasionally to see flops. So call, and he was kind of c-betting, I think probably 100% of the flops. To be honest, I could be doing this in Hold'em Manager and then would be able to see, but yeah, I mean, it wouldn't actually show anyway because I've got like 4,000 hands on this guy. But yeah, so check call is kind of weak. Maybe I should have check raised, but it was just more of a float again, I guess, because he was just betting so much. But the turn gives me a straight draw, and at this point my plan was to basically check raise if he bet, but at the same time if he checked back then he'd kind of give me a free card, which would be a mistake by him. So like basically anything he could possibly do would be a mistake at this point. So I check, and he checks back and gives me the free card, which hits me spectacularly. So I bet, and he raises, and I've got the nuts, so I shove all in, and unfortunately for him, he rivered 2-pair, which sucked, and heads up, that is kind of sick, but what am I going to do? Fold? So, next hand, pocket 9s. You see where this is going. Standard 3x, standard 3-bet. So I decide with 9s that I'm going to make a much, well, not much bigger, but another big statement pre-flop. And this hand was actually directly after, like literally the next hand after the hand where I rivered the the nuts straight, so I'm thinking like he might be pissed off, whatever. So I make a big 4-bet, and yeah, so he basically shoves, leaves himself 120. Don't know why he did that, but superstition maybe. But obviously, I mean, yeah, sometimes he winds up with a higher pair, but a lot of the time he winds up with kind of ace-x, maybe ace-7, ace-8 and lower there, because he thinks I'm just kind of screwing around with him. So I basically snap him off and hope to be better than a 50-50, but kind of not too fussed with a 50-50. And he calls and flips like the dream hand. Obviously I'm kind of screaming for no 8s and 2s, but we run nice, so take that one down. Next hand, I get ace queen. He standard kind of 85% raises me. And this was actually directly after the pocket 9s hand, so I make another strong move. I mean, I know he's not really going to believe it, but I'm pumping up the pot with such a great hand, heads up. And basically I flop a dream, which is top, and I decide to check to him, to kind of check raise. If he bet kind of like 3, 4, 475, something like that, I might have just min raised. But he makes such a strong bet that it's not that I'm worried about a hand beating me, it's just more that I think that if I just check call here, then he's going to hang himself later on in the hand, and I'm just going to take all his chips and he's going to give them to me. So I elect to call, and the turn card is not the best, but if you hit a king, then whatever, that's a variance. I'm planning on calling any bets, and he shoves, which looks weakish to me as well, kind of. But I was always going to snap him off, and unfortunately for him, he hit top pair. So by now he must be like going crazy. And that was the last hand I played, heads up, and that's where my old video ended. But I actually had one other hand on here that I saved because I thought it was kind of funny, and I'll go through my thinking behind this as well. Not that I play it as well as I might have been able to, but anyway, so I just try and steal this guy's blind with ace-4 suited, and the flop gives me 2 pair, but it's suited, so I bet just half the pot, partly for like early stages of pot control, just in case they've just hit like the nuts or something with a king 2 of spades. So yeah, I bet half the pot, and the player kind of min raises me. So part of me thinking is that he's just hit a flush, and the other part of me is thinking that he's got like the king or queen of spades. So I like to call because I'm thinking that I've got great implied odds if I hit an ace or a 4. So the turn card kind of ruins my whole plan, and I check to him, but he checks back the turn, so that kind of makes me think, well, maybe he hasn't got like a made flush, because if he did, maybe he would hope I had an 8-7 and would pay him off with his flush that he's hit. So I check and he checks, and the river comes a blank, so I check to him again, thinking that if he did have the queen or the king of spades, or like pocket 7s or pocket 9s or something like this, that that he might kind of bluff the river. So I check it to him again, and he bets like double the pot, which screams bluff to me most of the time, but sometimes people just wind up with like pocket 6s or pocket 4s or pocket 8s or worse in these situations. But you know, I call anyway because you know my plan was to set him up for making a bluff mistake on the end. So I called, and sure enough, he flipped the queen of spades. So there we have it. Hope you enjoy the video, and yeah, I shall be making more, I think.